Okay. Good morning, everybody. I'm Love Coach Scott Catamas, and it is the Sacred Sunday Show. It's a beautiful Sacred Sunday here in California, and I hope that wherever you are, whether you're watching this live or the majority of you who watch the video replay, welcome. I have a really beautiful special guest. It's someone that I've known for many years. We've been at festivals together where she was playing music and I was leading events or teaching classes or hosting. Um, and I've really gotten to know her this past year as she's been one of our favorite musicians on Saturday Night Alive. And so, what I've been doing more and more with our Sacred Sunday show is finding those fascinating people, those people that I want to spend more time with, and inviting them to be my guests to really go deeper. And that, of course, is our case today with Larisa Stow. We have a really beautiful conversation with Larisa. Now, as fate would have it, something came up for her this morning, and something came up for me this morning. Now, I'm coming to you live, but last night we had Pato and Antoinette right in my own hometown where I live, and so I was hoping to have breakfast with them this morning. It's not going to work out. They had to get up and leave earlier for where they're going. So I'm going to be, but I did a pre-record with Larisa. So I'm going to play the pre-recorded video for us, but it's dynamic. It's really powerful. She's had an amazing life. She was on the brink of death and had an extraordinary healing experience that changed her life and rerouted her attention and dedication. And you're going to hear all about that really fascinating, amazing story. And I'll be available to chat and connect. So we're going to get to the Larisa video in just a moment. But I just want to invite all of us, and thank you, Bonnie and Mark, who's in the Zoom room. Welcome. Welcome to anybody watching live on Facebook, live on our YouTube channels, or anybody who's watching this replay. Welcome. I do like to start the Sacred Sunday show often with a meditation. So I'm going to lead a short one just as an opportunity for us to drop in, kind of really take, it'll probably be 2-3 minutes long. And so I invite us to put our devices away, don't multitask. Let's just drop in together, shall we? So inviting you to close your eyes and breathe at your own pace, but consciously breathing. Really paying attention to the breath coming in and out. Breathing through our nose often is a wonderful way to oxygenate ourselves and to be more conscious about our breath. And on each inhale, imagining that you're bringing in beautiful life force. And on every exhale, releasing anything that no longer serves you, releasing the old. Our breath is such a beautiful microcosm of life. Inhale, new life experience. Exhale, contract. We release, we let go. In a sense, every exhale is like a little baby death, a little let go. And in this life, we connect, we create, we expand, and then we let go, we release. And so breath can be experienced like that. And so as you inhale, what are you wanting to bring into your life at this time? I'm bringing in more ease. I'm bringing in more abundance. I'm bringing in more love in many different forms. Just some examples. And on your exhale, what are you releasing? What are you letting go of? Maybe letting go of old habits and patterns that don't serve me anymore. Perhaps even letting go of certain connections or relationships that are no longer empowering or inspiring me. So I'm going to be silent now for about a minute and just invite you to consciously inhale and bring in what you wish, and exhale and release that which no longer serves you. Slowly coming back. Thank you so much. It's nice to breathe together, isn't it? So, welcome. It's lovely to have all of you with us. And please, you are so going to enjoy the magic, the wisdom, the beautiful spirit that is Larisa Stow. So, here is my pre recorded interview with her. And I'll stick around and connect with you all through chat. Definitely want to make sure the sound is proper. There we go. Welcome, everybody, to our Sacred Sunday show. I'm Love Coach Scott Catamas, and I am with one of the most wonderful people I've really gotten to know over the last year, Larisa Stow. We kind of had been ships passing in the night for many years at different festivals and events, but through the Saturday Night Live show, we've had a chance to hear her sing and to hear her speak, and I've gone to some of her morning meditations. And I said, okay, I really want to get to know Larisa on a deeper level. And so she's agreed to be our special guest today. And we are actually recording this because we are both not available to do it live on Sunday. So this is one time that we won't be able to answer questions live, but we will still, or I'll at least still ask questions. Larisa, will you go back and look at the comments, see what questions come in?
Yeah, if people ask questions, I will absolutely answer them. Be
Great.
very, very happy to.
Well, thank you for being with us. And thank you for being who you are and your contributions to the world, very much your contributions to the festivals that I've seen you at, and most recently to Saturday Night Live, and also to your clients and to your fans. You work with people in a lot of different ways, as a coach, as a teacher, as a singer-songwriter, as a course leader. So we'll try and cover all of that stuff. But here's my first question for you. What comes to mind when I ask you, when did you start to reawaken? And I say reawaken because we're kind of awake as little kids, and then we kind of go to sleep because of the environment we're in. And then things happen that wake us back up. What were some or any significant awakening experiences for you?
I would say back in about 2006, I started having a very, very deep need to connect to spirit in a much more profound way. And I found myself starting to have experiences that were very, very mystical. And I'd had experiences when I was younger that were quite mystical, but there was kind of like as you're saying, there's a bit of a maybe a period that was more dry, or not as intense mystically. And in 2006, I started working with singing for, I should say at the time, and it actually happened before then, but it was really getting, I guess, intensified in 2006 with Swami Vishwananda. And there's a lot of stuff going on, and I know there's a lot of controversy around him as well now, which there always seems to be, with a lot of spiritual leaders. But to be honest, like being in that consistent energy of devotion and being around a lot of mystical experiences, like he was very much, and I'm not going to go into all the shadowy stuff that happened, you know, because we could go there, but it's really not about that. I mean, it was really a time where I started feeling myself start to open in different ways than even more so. And I started feeling more of this multidimensionality starting to open up within myself. And around 2006, it became very apparent that I needed to go deeper in that. Like I needed to give myself permission to really go into it. Um, and at the time, I feel like I'd kind of been a little bit in the closet with my spirituality in the sense that I felt like if I was really open about it, I would seem insane. Um, that that there I was embarrassed to really share like the depth of what I was going through and what I was experiencing because I at that time I felt like it might not be accepted. And at that point in my life, it was like one of those forks in the road. And I remember Mirabai is one of my best friends, Mirabai Davy. And she's like, Law, you have to come out of the closet. And she encouraged me as well, you know, and I felt like, yeah, I need to, because I felt like I wasn't being as honest with myself and what was really important to me. And it's almost now looking back on it, I'm it's one of those things where I'm like, I can't believe that I was so embarrassed about it back then, because now it's so like, this is just what it is, you know. This is where I go, this is what I experience. But back then I felt like, yeah, I really felt like the world wouldn't accept it.
Mhm.
um, and so I felt a bit hidden. And once I started to give myself permission to talk to honestly with my husband about it, I had a big huge fear at that time in my life about being um, all that I am, uh, and how it would affect our relationship. and and to be honest, it was challenging, you know, for him. And I got to the point where it was like, I really have to be honest about everything that I am. I can't hide this anymore. I need to go further, I need to go deeper with this. And I literally started having an awakening, and I would say that it had been building. It's not like something happened boom all at once. It was like this, like a slow burn over the years, because I'd been doing yoga forever, like since my 20s. And I'd had a miracle. I think I shared that with you, right? That I had a miracle at St. Peter's Cathedral. When I was in my 20s, I'd had rheumatoid arthritis, like debilitating rheumatoid arthritis, to the point where I had to either be on a walker or I had to be on anti inflammatories and steroids in order to walk without a walker. Um, yeah, like we're talking, I had to be carried upstairs. So I was disabled at that time in my life, really bad. And I had this incredible miracle. And I feel like the miracle happened because I knew that it had to happen. Like I knew that I couldn't be on anti-inflammatories and steroids for the rest of my life and live a long life. I knew that wouldn't be possible. So it's like I within my whole being, I knew something had to happen, and I believed that it would happen. And when I was in St. Peter's Cathedral, I had this profound experience with the light, an incredible bhakti experience, just like so much inspiration being in there. And had an experience where I literally had an angelic presence, you know, tell me that I was healed. And I believed it. I knew it to be true. It also told me I had to do yoga though for the rest of my life. That's a stipulation. It's like, but you have to take care of yourself. You have to do your yoga for the rest of your life. Um, And I was like, yes. And from the next day forward, when it came time to take my medication, which I would always put off, I would only take it when I started to swell up because I never wanted to be on it. I didn't swell up. And thus, like, I've always had this really profound relationship with spirit. I've always been super open to spirit, but that slow build in the sense of, okay, I have this relationship with spirit, but to really allow myself to go into the depths on a consistent daily basis of, it's okay if it looks like I've lost my mind. It's okay if I talk to the other side, behind the veil. It's okay if I get these downloads that don't make any logical sense, and yet I can feel them in every fiber and cell of my body to be true. And even if I'm not on 100%, that just by saying yes to it and walking in that direction, I'm always taken in the right direction. And I'm always able to help others go in a better, more aligned direction, but from following all of this. So saying yes to this, it was like a slow build, a slow burn. Doing yoga, like, because I did, like, after I had that healing experience, I just dove deep into Kundalini yoga specifically. And for me, that has always been a really beautiful place, for me to connect to my own spirit. Again, has nothing to do with Yogi Bhajan. Like, it's funny, these teachers, pew, pew, falling all around us. Um, but for me it was huge, and I felt my nervous system, like, over the years I felt my nervous system opening. I felt these incredible things happening, like standing in a store and having my whole crown just start to go and literally not moving out of 3D into this total energy of transcendence as I'm standing in line at the supermarket, right? And going, all right, we're just going to be with this right now. In this moment, this is what's happening. And as I said yes to it, and said yes more and more and more to it, I started having what, I have come to know as a Kundalini awakening. Um, and it's been layers upon layers. And there's many things that have played a really big role in that awakening. And I could talk about that, and that's actually what I'm writing about in my course. But I go in the book, I'm going into more of a personal, um, expression. It's like the book will be the tell all, you know, and believe me, this is my tell all is going to probably be shocking to some people. And it's taken me a long time to come to this point, to be like, okay, I'm still gearing myself up to really be able to share the full on of how this Kundalini, awakening came to be, um, and how that's impacted my life, how that's impacted the community around me. Um, and it's been an incredible journey. So yeah, I would say in 2006 it started really, and by 2008 it was like, and then it just kept going, like, and I've gotten blown out by my Kundalini as well when I didn't listen to it.
Mm.
Um, I was never ever afraid of the Kundalini, and in teaching about it and the awakenings, I was always very much like, don't be afraid of your Kundalini. I mean, my, people who've worked with me would tell you that over the years, like, there's no reason to be afraid of it. That is when you listen to it, when you listen to its guidance. There's nothing to be afraid of when you listen to love, like when you listen to the guidance of the Kundalini, when it's speaking and wanting to protect you and guide you. But if your ego overrides what it's telling you, which I did one time, you can completely blow out your system. And that literally was the beginning of, like, my health, you know spiral for a while, why I went down in health, is because I didn't listen at one point and I blew myself out.
Wow.
Um, and yet, like, I can honestly say that I almost died. I was in the hospital and I went through a lot with that decline. And that's a whole other story. But I would say that because of that, too, it gave me like the biggest teachings. And now I really understand Kundalini. And I really understand how to help other people work with their Kundalini awakenings and how to ground Kundalini. If I hadn't gone through all of this, um, I if I hadn't had my ass kicked by it, I wouldn't also know, really how incredibly powerful it is, and how it can be dangerous if you don't listen to it.
Right.
Like it's a really amazing teacher. And I think it's the most incredible inside out teacher that we can all work with. But if you don't listen to it, it also can be like the whoosh, because our container, that we have, it can only hold so much electricity.
Right.
It's like a mathematical, you know, like purely, physical thing here, that if your container isn't big enough to hold that much electricity, you will blow it out. So you have to make sure that you're deeply listening, when you have an awakening, and know, how to navigate those energies.
I've got 17 questions that I want to ask as we go through the
I know.
So I'm going to winnow it down. I think so many of the people watching this are people who have had spiritual experiences, and many of them are still in the state of not wanting to be made wrong or told that they're crazy. Right? So I want to kind of go down that track for a moment, and I want to acknowledge our epigenetics. We carry the ancestral trauma going back at least 7 generations, which means we all had ancestors who did have profound spiritual experiences and were crucified for it. I mean, they might have, they were burned at the stake, or they were castigated, or they were thrown out of the family, or they were perceived as crazy, right? So there's that enormous stigma that we carry culturally and in our epigenetics, the fear of acknowledging experiences that are outside the realm of what culturally and socially is considered normal. And of course,
Right.
I know there is no such thing as normal. Normal is it's
What
science
is
fiction.
it? What
Right,
does that
what's
mean?
normal?
Yeah.
So, with that being said, what would be some of the tools and practices that you'd like to share of how you've navigated your way? And kind of within that, how have you cultivated knowing the different voices? Like what is the voice of your ego versus the voice of the Kundalini? How have you kind of cultivated that understanding?
That is a very good question. Um, Listening. My ego has its own agenda. And when I listen, when I ask, rather than thinking I know, the moment that I'm like, I know, which is what my ego did in that moment. Like, in this particular experience, I was having like these incredible, like almost lightning bolt surges of electricity going up into my brain, right? And it was just like boom, boom, and it was lights. It was like a light show, but it more than the light show. I was in this state. It felt so ecstatic, um, and expansive, like this unified field. And yet, Larisa was there. She was there going, whoa, it was like, whoa. And in that moment that I saw literally what I would call a death cloak come, it literally came, and it almost looked like it. And it's hard to say if I'm remembering this from my consciousness trying to create symbolism for me to be able to express it, or if I really saw it. But I knew, let's just say I knew that there was this almost like grim reaper kind of energy coming, and it was just like, stop, like, back away, because I was literally leaning into the electrical energy in a way that's hard to explain, other than I was like, yeah, like if you're on like a, a snowmobile or something, and you're like going through the jumps, right? And you're like, I'm gonna go higher, poof, from your personality. I was like, yeah, and I was leaning into these electrical surges that were happening. Like, I was just like, this is the me that was still had personality in this experience, was really enjoying it. Let's just put it that way. And when the death cloak came, and it was just like, stop, you need to back off, back off, back off, back off. Don't lean, back off. Um, my what I know now, because I really understand the distinction now, is that I was like, because it showed me death. There will be a death, right? And I said, yeah. I was like, because I wanted to keep going, right? So I was like, but I want my egoic part of me that creates suffering and that contracts all the time. My emotionally contracts. Let that part die. And it was this really, like, we must go forward, this like, let it die. And when I went past that point of me, Larisa, making that decision that I wanted to go past it, it's like somebody literally took a plug and pulled it out of the light socket.
Wow.
My energy in my body immediately went from all this amazing ecstatic energy to like this, just a complete, like, literally, like I was a puppet, or some kind of an animated energy being animated by an outside source. And then it was like it was ripped out of a light socket, and I had nothing. And my heart started palpitating, started skipping beats. I could feel that there was something going wrong with my heart. Um, and I just started breathing and trying to calm myself down, because I was like, oh, holy shit. It was like this feeling of, what did I do? And having that realization that I did something bad. Like, it was like, I did something not so good here. I didn't listen, it was like, and I didn't want to shame myself, because I understood that it was like, I was like childlike in
You
my
know, the
enthusiasm.
word that's coming to my mind, which is happens to all of us, was you got intoxicated, right? And we can get intoxicated. We don't just get intoxicated by alcohol or drugs, although obviously we all know that one. We can get intoxicated by great sex, by romantic energy, or by spiritual experiences. And so of course when we're having anything super pleasurable, we want more, right?
Yeah.
I'm
Right.
thinking Freddie Mercury. I want it all and I want it now,
Right.
And we do. We can get intoxicated, which is perfectly human. And of course, when we're intoxicated, often we make choices that we later regret. And that's kind of what I'm imagining might have happened for you.
Yes. That's exactly what happened. Very humbling.
Hmm.
Um, and in that moment, after I got myself to calm down, and I like did some heart, pounding on my heart to get my heart to like get back on track again, I went to sleep. And when I woke up, I felt horrible. I
Hmm.
felt horrible. I couldn't, like, I sat up, but I felt so weak. Trying to walk was really challenging for me. I felt so incredibly weak, like outrageously weak. Um, and this didn't go away. And the thought that I had, like, immediately came to my mind, was remembering a passage in Autobiography of a Yogi, where Yogananda was asking Sri Yukteswar, to give him enlightenment, if he could do that. I don't know if you remember that, but I'm sure you read that book. I'm
Oh,
sure.
Yogananda is my master teacher.
Okay, like I had that feeling. So
I love Yogananda.
um, so you remember like when he asked for that, and Sri Yukteswar was like, if I were to give you enlightenment right now, it could kill you
Yeah,
because you cannot hold that much light right now. You have to, you have to build that container to be able to hold it. And so that came rushing back to me.
right.
That teaching came rushing back, and it was like, you know, you don't have the capacity to hold that much light. That's why you were told to stop,
You know,
right?
that reminds me of I was listening to one of the Yogananda audios. You know how they have like audio recordings of his teachings, and he was talking about that all beings, even if they're great spiritual teachers, if you're in a human body, you still have lessons. You
Yeah.
still have karma. So somebody, thank God, said, "What's your lesson?" And he said, "Discernment." He said, "Discernment is commonly one of the last, if not the last lesson for master souls." And he spoke about how it's so hard for him because he loves everybody and he sees everyone's karma and he wants to help them, he wants to support them, he wants to take on their karma. Yogananda to talk about himself. And Sri Yukswar again said, no, only 5% of the time should you actually engage. The other 95% of the time, just bless people, maximum grace. Maximum grace for this person. Because we don't know what is truly best for someone. We don't know it's best for someone to be cured of cancer. We don't know if it's best for someone to be healed. We don't know if it's best for a marriage to stay together. Right? We don't know. So you just pray maximum grace. And so maximum grace has become my primary prayer since hearing that. The last part of the story, since we're both Yogananda fans and learning, is Yogananda did die at a pretty early age. And Sri Dayamata said it was because he just couldn't stop taking on the karma of all the people around him that he loved so much. So discernment and yeah, listening to our body and listening to all those different things. I mean, just as you got intoxicated with that energy and then had kind of a psychic hangover, even our beloved Yogananda may have been intoxicated with the joy of supporting people, but
Yeah.
taking on more energy that wasn't his.
Yes. Yes. And it's very humbling because our soul does know, and it's not easy to listen. And that's, that was a really, it's a huge teaching. I'm still, this never ends. I'm still really learning to listen, to deeply listen. But that was a huge wake up call. Because I got sick. Yes, my energy came back. It took a couple weeks. My energy started coming back again, but then I started having this shadow in my right eye, like within a week or two of that experience, where it looked like I'd looked at the sun too long. When you look at and then you
Right, and
close your
it
eyes.
got right.
I had that in my right eye. And I started noticing that things became really wavy. Like I started having problems reading. Like I'd be like, what is going on? Like things are becoming wavy and what is happening? So I went to the ophthalmologist, and he diagnosed me with macular degeneration. Um, and that was super scary. And he's like, did you have anything? Is there anything that like could have created before he diagnosed me with macular degeneration, he said, did you have anything that was traumatic, recently really traumatic that you went through? And I said, well, this is going to sound crazy, but I had this Kundalini experience. He had no idea what I was talking about. And he's like, I have no idea what and I'm like, but I'm pretty sure that that's what did it, and he's like, um, and I had shots put in my eye. We're talking, this was, heavy, 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 like to the point where lines became so wavy. People's faces started distorting, turning into fun house looking Um, and I thought I was going to go blind in my right eye. It was, and then they say if you have macular degeneration, there's a high probability that it'll hop in the like you'll get it in the other eye as well. So here I am thinking I might be going blind, um, all because of not listening. You know, blowing myself out. My left breast started bleeding, like at the same time. I mean, I was a mess, and then that like started the whole. It just started this whole, and you know, it was definitely, I feel like I'd already had dark nights of the soul before then. You know, I'd already gone through some major ones. So I'm like, oh my God. Like it was like, like really? Like it was so huge. And then I had the cancer scare. I was diagnosed with um, ductal carcinoma in situ. Um, and I was dealing with that. And then I ended up in the hospital because I had this pain, outrageous pain um, in my abdomen, like uterine area, and with that they didn't know what was wrong, and then like I got, they didn't know this, but I got C. diff in the hospital. Like it was like this horrible bacterial infection that they had no idea of, and then they found out I had, a month later I had an ovarian torsion. They still didn't know I had C. diff, and I was just going down. I was just going, everything was going like every, like it was like system failure, system failure, beep beep beep. And I just kept getting worse and worse and having less and less energy, and now having massive pain on top of everything. Um, and in the hospital and out of the hospital, it was a whack. It was so wacky, but, and it was the most profound time for me, for having like massive shifts in consciousness too, because I had to. It was kind of like you do or you die. You know, it was like, again, fork in the road. So my kundalini had been going up, right? But then now I had like to navigate through this completely unknown terrain of, it was, I swear, Scott, it was like the biggest test of my life, because not only was it physical, but it was so mental. It was like what spirit told me, and this was really interesting. It said, because you didn't listen, you know, when your kundalini told you to stop,
Mhm.
because you didn't listen.
It's,
Because
thank you so much for sharing just the vulnerability of that. Um, and another question, because I'm thinking how our viewers might be curious. So you have a husband,
yeah,
and you were married before you had your first awakening, and then obviously you were going through all of this, and his beloved. Had you had your daughter yet? The-
I had my first daughter. Yes, my first daughter, who's now 20. I had, uh, you know, well, I had her obviously 20 years ago, way before
your first experience, right?
my major kundalini. I had had, obviously I'd had the St. Peter's Cathedral. I
Mhm.
had had mystical experiences. I even had mystical experiences as a child.
Mhm.
Lots of mystical experiences. But like I said, it was becoming, it was amping. Everything just started going, you know, it's like this amp up
So
with the
how does the husband go with that? Because of course there's got to be the part of him who loves you and is happy you're having these experiences, and on the other hand, he wants his wife and the mother of his child and then children to be healthy. So
yeah,
how did he deal with that, and how'd you guys navigate that?
it was really hard. It was really hard. I mean, we went through a very, very rough time. Very, very rough time, to where, you know, we almost didn't stay together. And it had everything to do with my spiritual awakening. um, and me following, you know, like that rabbit down the rabbit hole. So to, you know, it's like I have to follow the magnetism of this awakening. And for him it was like, well, you're not here, you're over there now, right? So yeah, it was really, really rough. It was a very challenging thing to navigate. And I don't, you know, I think he honestly was really worried about my sanity when I was younger. Um, because I did have outrageously mystical experiences even before Arya was born. Um, I had one mystical experience where I literally, after doing an ayahuasca, it was my very first ayahuasca ceremony I'd ever done. And in that ceremony, I merged so deeply, or I should say, Divine Mother came in so deeply. And at that point in my life, it's like I kind of stepped out. Larisa kind of stepped out, and Divine Mother came in. And she was so in within me that for days, like over the course of days, um, I was really being magnetized to helping people in ways where I hadn't before. Like I could hear people I didn't even know, their deepest desires and their thoughts. And I was just so aware of all this that was going on. And he was very concerned, for my well being, even though I was in this very expansive state of love. Um, and it wasn't until Mirabai came into our lives that she was really out there. So when she when she came into our lives, I met her before she was doing darshan, and that she and all the things that she's doing now in the United States. She had just come to the United States, and we met in Tres Piedras, New Mexico, at a friend's wedding. She was on the land of Thomas One Wolf, and my friend who was getting married was on the land of Thomas One Wolf. So we were there at this wedding, and we met, and we just instantly became like instant soulmate sisters. Um, just like, it's like one of those things when you're standing next to each other and you're like, hi, hello. It's like we just had this boom, like super, super recognition of each other's souls. And yeah, she was just like, we were riding in the same waves of dimensional frequencies. And for the first time, I think Doug saw somebody that he thought was just as crazy as me, I guess you could say, right? And yet he could see through our friendship and through the where we went, it helped him see in a different way, because we'd meditate, we'd go into the light, and we'd have these experiences together. And he was like, and she had been doing healing work for years with people. She had been doing healing work in South Africa, and she would be like, but Douglas, she'd be like, but La, she has a spiritual light within her. She needs to, and he'd be like, so he started having an awareness of it. But once I started going super deep into it later, um, it became challenging,
Yeah.
like,
And that's why I asked the question, because it is common that when one member of a couple has a really significant spiritual awakening or a new spiritual path, it can, of course, be very upsetting to because the other one, like, well, do I hop on board, or am I being left to, am I being left here? Where'd my girlfriend go? Would my wife go? And so it is common that can be challenging. Were there any tools or little tricks or things that helped you two to stay together that you could share to anybody else going through that challenge?
communication, and also really honoring the parts of our relationship that are nourishing, honoring those parts instead of like, okay, well, this isn't working, so we're just gonna walk away from all of it, which is, I know a lot of people do that. And for us, it was like we realized that even though there were some parts where we're not in sympathetic resonance, is what I would say, um, other aspects of our relationship are so nourishing for us. Like we're really good at partnering, um, in community, in our family, creating sacred space. There's a lot of ways that we really support each other. Like we really, even more so now, to be honest with you, like I feel before all of this happened, I think he was more had more fear around um, me going out and touring. Like that was also a piece that came up when I was younger, that my music was taking me away too much, from our family too. Um, he had these fears, and because of that, sometimes I would feel a bit diminished, if that makes sense. Like I couldn't totally, be my full self expression. But I have to say that after I went through this, and after being in massive, like, just such transparent communication, but with love, but with love,
You do that by yourselves, or do you have coaching?
we do it by ourselves. I mean, we did go in the beginning, like, to a counselor, but I found that I'm like, you know what? I know how to do this. I was just like, I realized that if I just got really honest and I asked questions, then it could open up a space, right? And if I got really honest without even needing somebody else to help me get honest, it's like I have to be super honest about how I feel with with the love, right? Um, and seeing the highest in him. And also, I think one of the big things for me was letting go of expecting him to be anywhere different than where he is.
Mm.
It's like honoring his own process, honoring his own growth, seeing the beauty and and where he is rather than where he is not.
That's so huge. I just really want people to take that in because, again, the majority of people watching this show are on a spiritual path. And it's very easy for any of us to go into self righteousness because I'm having increasing spiritual experiences, increasing Kundalini awakening, increasing this, that, or the other thing.
Right.
It's human nature for the ego to perceive I'm advancing faster. I'm further along the path than my husband or my wife or my brother or my sister or my best friend or whoever it is. And so managing not to fall into that arrogance,
Right.
right?
Yes. That is it. That is, I would say that's something that I see, like you see, I see that as well in others. And I even see it in myself. Like I've seen, like, looking at where I am even now compared to how I perceived at different points in time. I'm very clear of the work that I have to do, um, in the sense of compassion, like, and seeing that where everybody is exactly, it's like that's where they need to be. Like it's
And
and
it's all God, life
God,
experiencing itself, right?
yes, there's
And
nothing that's not. It's all there's like nothing that isn't God.
right.
So Kundalini awakening may give us insight, inside out insight, but it's definitely a part of the process to really see your own stuff. I think that's one of the biggest gifts of Kundalini on a human level. On a human level, it's like amazing, all the oneness that you experience with Kundalini. That feeling of transcendence and going into complete oneness in that realm of Shiva and Shakti. That's who wouldn't want that? I mean, that's like amazing. But let's be honest. I mean, that's who we are without these bodies anyway. I mean, it's just a remembering more than anything else. It's a remembrance of what you already are. I think the bigger piece of the Kundalini awakening, for me at least, is becoming actually more embodied. Um, a responsibility to really looking at myself and facing my own fears and being more vulnerable than I've ever been. Um, being willing to, like, really turn the finger back at the self, and go, okay, so, where am I not being compassionate right now? Where's my heart shutting down right now? How can this Kundalini is asking me to become even more open to love. And what does that look like? What does that feel like? Right. So, radical compassion, for myself and for others.
Beautiful. Beautiful. And Emma says, we have to start by having that radical compassion for ourselves before we can have it for others. We have to fill our own tank. And that's not about being selfish, but it's about filling our tank so that there's the overflow to give to others. Yeah.
Yep. I am yes. And I will say it's like I went from feeling selfish to self full and then finally to soul full, full of soul by, being that aware of how if I'm triggered, if I'm not being able to really open my arms wide enough to hold everybody where they are,
Mhm.
allowing them to be where they are, then that realization that I'm actually, there's a trigger going on the inside of myself. And that this being Larisa needs to get back acquainted with herself and with turning that love inward and finding how I can get juicier, so to speak, with myself.
All right, so I want to definitely focus a little bit or a lot in our remaining time on your different professional endeavors. Now, we all know you're an amazing musician, singer, songwriter, so I'm going to put that aside because we know that. And I'll probably play some of your music at the end. I'd like for you to share with our audience about your coaching. What kind of coaching you do, your kind of the demographic group that you really enjoy working with, and what people can get out of receiving coaching from Larisa.
Well, I love working one on one with people. Um, I feel like I have a sweet spot. Like if I'm to be honest, I have a sweet spot working with women.
Mhm.
Um, and I would say women who are at a place in their life where they're feeling like that they could break out. Like what I see is for women a lot of times is they feel a bit trapped, within this idea that they have to show up a certain way in the world, or that they have to continue to do the business that they're in, or their family, they have to show up in their family and in their household in a certain way. They have like this sense of like I have to, and a feeling of um, feeling trapped in a sense by that. And I love to work with women and show them that feeling that they're having, that contraction is the perfect place to be, because on the other side of that is like absolute freedom. um it's like I always look at it like this. It's like pulling the bow way back, right? So the contraction that has to come right before the expansion,
Right.
right? So I love working with contraction. Like that's my thing, is going deep into somebody's contraction and knowing and getting excited about, if we go deep enough into that contraction, on the other side of that is going to be freedom and liberation. um that's where like I get all excited, like sometimes my clients will even say it's almost like you're excited that I have this contraction. Like you're like a little mischievous there. And it's because I see what's going to happen. I can feel it, and I can see with my people what is around the bend. And it's exciting for me to see like the full potential of what they're stepping into. I can see it. It's like they're already, I always say they're cooked, they're baked, it's done. It's like you you're experiencing this, but just you wait. It's like poof, you're gonna go. So I see that as one of the big pieces for the people that are magnetized to me, to really like break out, and that liberation in their life. And the other piece I see is my people are like deep soul divers. I like to call them deep soul divers and badass dragon riders, because they're warriors, and they're warriors of love, and they want connection so deeply. And I see a lot of women struggling to have the depth in their relationships with themselves, with spirit, and with others, right? The depth of connection that they know is possible. And so that's one of the places I feel like I can make a really, that I, by being the witness, by being um, able to fully see where they are, like see actually the depth of their love and their, how they, their capacity to connect, is just creating those bridges by, through that witnessing and asking questions, so they can begin to see themselves, that they have that capacity to create and cultivate the level of connection with themselves, with spirit, and with others. So that's another one of the sweet spots um, that I enjoy, and that I tend to make a really big difference with people.
Beautiful. That's beautiful. I it's really, I'm loving getting to know these parts of you. It's really, really, it's a real joy. It's a real joy. I want to start showing people some of your websites and where they can go. And since you talked about your Love Warriors, let's go to your Facebook page for a moment. Um, and for those of you on Facebook, which is most everybody, there's your Shakti Love Warriors. And of course, you do the meditation every day at 11:11. Sometimes it's you, often it's friends that you invite. Tell us a little bit about this group and what people can benefit by joining.
Um, it's just a really beautiful, kind, very, very kind community. What I love about this community is, I think through doing so many of the Facebook lives, we've created this incredible space of curiosity, deeper listening. Like, one of the things that is really important to me is that we create a space of compassion for everybody. So even if people have different opinions, different beliefs, that we are a space of curiosity rather than a space of polarization and righteousness. Um, I really invite that, and we all invite that. I would say that our community as a whole um, does a pretty incredible job at being able to have conversations that maybe other places you might not have those kind of conversations, be able to share about things and be able to be received. Um, so I'm really, I feel really grateful about that, that, you know, you're going to go onto our page and you'll rarely ever see people getting into arguments that you see a lot of on in a lot of other spaces, right? Because people have a deeper curiosity and listening for one another. Um, and that's my desire, is that we cultivate a place where we can learn, you know, how to do this, because I think it's going to be essential for the healing of our collective consciousness, you know. And again, we're going into a huge we're in a contraction right now. There's huge polarity, we're in the contraction, and I don't think we were so honest before about our feelings. You know, we were much more sentimental and nice and trying to keep the peace in the past, rather than, well, this is how I really feel. It's like people would talk about how they feel behind closed doors, but maybe not as much in public. And now people are like running off at the mouth so much, you know, about how they feel, and being very quick to put somebody else down and call them names if they don't believe what they believe, and, you know, throwing people under the bus. Um, and I think that's happening because there wasn't that honesty. So the contraction has gotten a lot deeper, you know, with the polarity. But what I see possible is through, you know, moving into these more curious conversations, you know, then we can, phew, you know, we can go into a much bigger expansion. Because if we actually start to have more curious conversations, there's a lot that we actually, a lot of values that we all actually really share, if we allow ourselves to hear deeper into where people are coming from.
You know, a few times you've mentioned such an important word, which is curiosity. You know, when you talk about, you know, keeping it together with your husband through challenging times, you asked questions. And it's so important for us to be curious and to ask questions with childlike wonder, right?
Yes.
Not in a prosecutorial way. It's
Yeah.
not, why did you do that? But it's like, wow, why did you do that? Right? And if we can be curious, and curiosity is so incredibly important. When I first started coaching couples, somebody gave me a book, and it was couples that have been married for 40 years or longer that are happily married. And curiosity was the number one thing through every story. I'm still fascinated by her. I'm still curious about her. We're still curious about each other. And the flip side of that that's tragic is and I'm sure you see it sometimes, when you work with couples that say, oh, she'll never change. Oh, that's Joe. He'll just, and when people put a family member or a loved one in a prison, that's who they are and they'll never change. First, it's just kind of, wow, who are you today? Right?
Yeah.
Who are you in this moment? Who am I in this moment? And maintaining that childlike wonder and curiosity. So thank you for saying that a few times. I just wanted to riff on it for a minute.
Yeah, I love that. Thank you for riffing on it, Scott. I love I love how you bring your own awareness, and you hone in on something and you bring that into the lights, important pieces. Yeah.
Yeah, well, thank you. And it's such a joy to be talking with you. And when you do say certain things that I just really want to make sure people catch how important that tip is or that tool is, that practice is. So,
Yes.
yeah, that's what I'm trying
Yes.
to focus on.
Absolutely, hun.
So every day, 11 o'clock in the morning, you guys kind of gather, and 11:11, you've got a meditation, and it's open to anybody to join. Yeah.
Yes. Open to anyone who wants to be like in this space of curiosity and kindness, um,
So
compassion.
again, on Facebook, Larissa's Shakti Love Warriors group, and this just happens to be up on your page right now. But I love that. What a wonderful new variation on the peace symbol. That's really, really cool.
But look at this. I want to just notice this. Like scroll down a little bit to the comments. See this what I love here is see Marie, she's sharing that she would love it more if hate was less prominent. Like she would rather see it rather than end hate, it being something else. She says, but love the symbol. See how she's not attacking? How
Right,
she's sharing her opinion, but she's not attacking, the person
right.
who did it. And I really appreciate
Yeah.
that kind of dialoguing. And that's what my people do. It's like, it's like, that's what I love about my people,
Yep, you got good peoples. You got good
Yeah.
peoples.
Yeah. Really good people. They're modeling really well.
So you're doing more and more writing now, and congratulations. I didn't know this before our conversation today. You've started writing for Elephant Journal and getting really, really good responses. Tell us about these two articles. And again, just want to encourage anybody as you hear her talk about these two articles, go to elephantjournal.com. It's a great publication to be connected to. And look up Larissa's two posts and thank her, and follow her, and tell us about these two posts.
Well, the first one that I wrote was a conscious death ceremony. This was the second one that you're showing that I wrote.
All right, well, here, I'll go to Conscious Death first.
And that actually one of the people in our community, our Tim Ananda, um, actually passed in the temple that I'm sitting in right now. Like we
Wow.
had a conscious death ceremony, um, conscious life and death ceremony for him. He had ALS, and so he was losing, progressive control over his body, and he just really wanted to have volition in his life to be able to end his life with love and compassion around him. So I felt like this was a really important story to tell,
Yeah.
because Tim, like, I love this picture. This is one of the last pictures he ever took. This was in the temple that day that he passed, for his ceremony. But he was not the easiest guy, like, to be around. There's a lot of challenges for like the community as a whole. Like he got kicked out of yoga classes, got kicked out of things because he's on the spectrum. I don't think he was ever tested, but it was obvious that he was majorly on the spectrum. And what he taught me, and I think what he taught all of us, and this is why I felt like it was important to write about it, is that he taught us what really unconditional love is, and loving somebody for who they are and not what you think they should be.
Mm.
He had so much profound medicine to bring to our community when it came to, he was like Hanuman, full on Hanuman. It was like flooding here in Long Beach. He would be the one who would show up in the middle of the night and find my sump pump and make sure that my temple wasn't getting flooded, because we did have it get flooded like a few times. And he's like, not on my watch. So he would come and he would just do these things that nobody else would do. Um, and he would be he was very boundary challenged because of how he was wired. He didn't know personal space. Like the personal space was kind of non-existent with
All
him.
right.
And he was really a teacher, like a profound teacher. He taught me how to have boundaries in a compassionate way, rather than like just like cutting him out of my life. I had to learn how to speak my truth, but with compassion. And
Sounds like he might have had Asperger's. Um, I've got a couple friends, and it's true. It's like they actually have big hearts, and they just want to be loved, but they don't understand boundaries. And there's one friend of mine, this big guy, and really, it's like the Frankenstein monster coming towards you, for his hug.
that was like fun. And he would yell, he'd get upset, like he might get super angry at the drop of a hat, and scare people, with it, because he didn't have any filters,
Yeah,
you
yeah,
know.
yeah.
um but he had a heart of gold.
Right.
So, I felt like it was important to write that. I had written actually in Facebook, and one day I was like, I need to really turn this into a blog, about him. And then I thought I should submit this, to Elephant Journal, and didn't expect the feedback that I got. I didn't expect to be featured. I like didn't expect to like win in the ecosystem. Um,
Did you, by any chance, write any songs about death or about that process, that practice?
I didn't write specifically about his death, but I have written, like in the past, I have written songs about death.
Well, our audience gets to watch something that takes place between us periodically. Me asking you to be on a show. On August the 7th, we're doing a show called Embracing Death with Compassion.
Oh,
And we've got Raymond Moody and Daniel Brinkley and some other really wonderful people. And I would love for you to, if you were free that night and you want to share this experience, talk about your experience just now, and then also, share a song about death and dying or whatever, applies. The theme is again, embracing death with compassion. I would love to have you on the show if you're free that night.
okay. Yeah, that sounds amazing. I
Yeah.
would.
And you can share about this experience because it is beautiful, and to have a death ceremony like that, how how um, how close to his actual leaving his body was that experience?
Oh, he died in front of us.
Wow.
Yeah, like there was a doctor here, and at the time, I don't know if it's still legal, but it was legal. I know there was a period of time where
There's
it
a
became,
little window, right?
and I don't think it is right now, but it was. Um, it may be again. I don't know, but I know it went back, but during that time it was open, so he had a doctor here, and they gave him that little, you know,
Cocktail.
yeah, that little cocktail that he took, and he took it, and it was supposed to just have him kind of gently fall asleep. Um, but what we found out is that it got mixed, um, kind of incorrectly. So, like you're supposed to mix it and then give it to the person, and it had been mixed for a little while.
Ah,
So the potencies, it changes the the alchemy of it. And so when he took it, he had, it was bizarre. It was like he went, like he said something like, I can feel it. You know, he could feel like it was like starting to take him really fast, and he got scared. And Mirabai was there. She was one of the people in our circle, and he had really looked to Mirabai as his like teacher, spiritual teacher person. And it was awesome, and I could see why, like, because in that moment it was like destiny, because she said in that moment when he got scared, she said, she's like, Tim, focus on the light. And she was just like, Om Namah Shivaya. She just like got like, she got like boom,
yeah.
you know, with him, like, you know, focus on Shiva. And she started singing. She's like, you know, Om Namah Shivaya, Om Namah, and we all just started going Om Namah Shivaya all together. And he just literally went like this. You could see him going, okay, you know, I'm going into that way. Like he redirected himself, and then he just like went back, and he almost died instantly. Like the doctor said he had never seen anybody go that fast. He took his vitals and he was like gone. He just like left his body within minutes
Wow.
of that happening. Um, and then we all together like took care of his body, you know, like just gave him love. Like I meditated up around his head, giving him light after he passed. And my cousin Jewelz was, you know, helping to anoint his body. Like everybody was doing all these beautiful things, and we got him in this. Um, I don't know what you would call it. It was kind of like it was this wrapping. It was like we wrapped him in this beautiful, like I believe it was orange. It was kind of this iridescent orange cloth. It was incredible. And then we were throwing rose petals, and you know, when the morgue came to take him, it's like we were with him, like just petals and sending love and light. We were just as a community, just like with him. And yeah,
Wow.
pretty
Well,
powerful.
of course, that's bringing back memories of when my wife passed, and we had about there were about a dozen people in the house, and we knew that she only had days, and then we knew she was down to final hours. And I went in to give her her morphine, and I just knew, oh wow, we're in the final minutes. And so I called everybody in, and we were around her, and um, her last breath was so beautiful because we could feel her liberation. It was like, oh my God, just like this, you know, there was nothing tragic about it. It was like just feeling she's finally free of the body and back in the big picture, you know. And we felt it with her. It was just glorious, you know. And people are always surprised when I talk about my wife's death being glorious. And, you know, I was simultaneously weeping,
Yeah.
you know, there's the part of the human part of me weeping like, oh my God, she's gone. But there's the other part of me simultaneously going, oh my God, you go, girl, you go, you know.
I so feel that. I can feel it. I told you that I really felt
Yeah,
connected to her, you know, very felt, it was amazing how transparent you all were, you know, on the social media, so that we could be a part of that journey.
yeah. And it's how it played out. You know, it's like literally the doctors said she's got 48, 72 hours. And nobody knew that she even had a problem, you know, like two of our closest friends maybe. So we had to do it though. It's like, hey, if you want to see Suchi again, you got, you know, a couple days. And it was amazing when I came back from the hospital with her, there were 75 people waiting at the house. It was incredible. And it was all, and then social media just like, it really did go viral, you know, our journal about the process. So it's incredible how those things happen and how blessed we are. All right, back to you. Tell us about this wonderful course. And I got really excited in our private conversation information about it. Tell us about the course that you're creating.
Well, it is completely inspired by the Kundalini awakening, and sharing not only for those who are, interested in having that activation, but for those who have had an activation and want to learn how to work with the Kundalini. So whether you haven't and you're curious, or you have, um, and learning how to work with those internal energies. Um, it's about liberating your divine current. Like the whole course is liberating your divine current, and I use moving and working with the energetics of the chakras to help with this energy and navigating this energy, using tools, taking people through like experiential tools of like really how do I ground this and how do I awaken, and looking at the archetypal energies that are associated, the archetypal energies that we all have within us that are there to help support and ground our awakening. And it's just it's like time, it's like right now we have this quickening on the planet. It's like an incredible time, where we have been in this cocoon and we're beginning to emerge from the cocoon slowly, but I still feel like we're in it. I mean, it's more, I feel like we're more in that dreaming stage. We haven't completely, we're not out of the cocoon yet. We're like having awareness of what's on the outside and what's going to be the new world, but we're still in it to a degree. And this is an important time because it's giving us this ability to really go deeply in, to bring forth this quickening of consciousness, within ourselves and within the collective. So it's a powerful. This is like my life's work, honestly. Um,
So, like, when do you think this course will be available? What's it going to look like? Is it a 3 month, 6 month? What are the parameters of it going to look like?
well, it's called a 9-week course. However, I would encourage people to take it, as slow, rather than just like, okay, I'm going to go through this 9-week course, even though it's set up, with 9 modules, um, because each module is so deep, and the things that you learn and work with and the tools that you work with within that module, um, really help you. And I know for myself, even in writing this, like there was a portion of the course that I wrote really fast. It was just like bam, bam, bam. I was just writing it and really in it. And then I started moving into, like my heart center, and it actually was my navel center. It was my navel center. When I moved into my navel center, I'm like, oh, this is fascinating. Like I got there. Not only am I sharing it, but I'm also experiencing it as I'm creating it. And it's taken me into deeper and deeper layers and levels. Like I'm being taught, like the Kundalini is specifically teaching me at these deeper layers now and levels as I'm going into like the crystallization of all of this. Like as it's beginning to crystallize, it's like, okay, Larisa, yes, and so, um I have found that once I hit my navel center, everything started slowing down, and I started like going in deeper and diving in deeper and being taught all these things in different ways as well. Um, and I am like right now I'm in my third eye. So, um, and I'm in a process with it. So I'm not pushing it out like how people are like, okay, the left brain got to get this done in this amount of time. For me, this is really about giving the finest offering that I can possibly give, um, and so it has its own rhythm. So I could say that it would be done, um, in October, but I'm not going to hold myself to that, because I feel like if more information comes in and I have to, I'm being asked to integrate certain pieces of information, I'll do that because it's important. This is really profound. Um, these are profound tools and ways of being able to navigate this energy.
I'm loving how you're really just so connected to spirit and letting spirit come through you. So you're not saying, okay, it's got to be done this way, that, but you're just really letting, you're having an experience and you're letting that experience guide the process of creating this course. That's very cool.
Yeah, it's I get to take the course first. Let's I was like, I'm taking it. Kundalini's giving me the course,
Yeah.
um, and that I don't think there's any better way to do it for me than that, because then I know the offering is really like, okay, this is
Welcome,
good.
everybody.
This is really worthy, and and I know it will make a really, really big difference for a lot of people. My little sneak previews, like, some of my closest besties are like, okay, share with me, and especially on my writing retreats, I've had these writing retreats where I've shared and I've gotten, you know, really pretty profound feedback, for how it's affecting, how it's landing. And so I'm really excited to be able to share it with the world when it feels like it's ready,
Well,
honestly.
when it's ready to be shared with the world, we will be doing that on our shows for sure, for sure. Speaking of sharing, likewise, um, just a reminder that her main website, your main website, is, I love that photo of you, by the way. It's an amazing picture. Um, it's LarisaStow.com. It's her name, LarisaStow, LarisaStow.com. And you've got all sorts of beautiful things there. Joining the tribe, listening to your latest album, um, all the different things that you've got going on here. Wow, that's amazing pictures. Um, Anything you want to point out that's especially significant that you want people to really make sure that they go to or check out when they're on your website?
Um, not specifically. It's so fun, so funny. It's like postponed. It has the old things that everything was postponed because of COVID. Um, I would say, just to I would love for people just to sign up on our newsletter. That's
Yeah,
like a really great way to stay connected, um, to be able to to stay connected to the music that comes out, to the blogs, to finding out when the courses are coming up, getting involved in our community, um, the sacred kula, uh, a space for people to commune together, to support one another, to meditate together. I call it like stop, drop, and meditate, or stop, drop, and pray together, like at 11:11. Um, People usually show up at 11 to just get everybody into their body. We do warm ups, and then at 11 to 11:22 Pacific Standard Time, people meditate together. And I think that's just a beautiful thing to do. Um, and yeah, to stay connected. There's just a lot of wonderful ways for our community to magnetize to each other so we can support each other, in this awakening. That's really what it's all about. Like the Shakti Love Warriors is really a we space. It's not a me space, but a we space. I know it has my name, Larisa, but that's because, so people know like what they're.
well, and you're a magnet, and so it's like people love your vibe and love your energy frequency, and it is important to have an energy frequency that people can understand. Oh, Larissa Stowe, yeah, I like her vibe, so
So they know, but it's really a we space. It's like there's so much participation, and um, I'm really very excited about creating a space where everybody gets to share their medicine. So, we're all different puzzle pieces, and the more those puzzle pieces come together, the more we can see the fuller picture. So, I feel like I'm one of my primary jobs is to kind of be somebody who attracts people together, that magnetizes like a space so that people can meet and connect and medicine can be shared with each other. And that
beautiful.
is That's important to me, that we, moving forward, that we're doing more and more of a collective we space. um, I think that's how we're going to really pull out of this and go to and ascend as a planet.
I agree with you. I mean, you've heard me say it before. I really do believe that each and every one of us is an essential imaginal cell in the butterfly that's coming out of the old paradigm. The old paradigm is the caterpillar that's dying, and we are all still finding each other. And you're right, I think we're definitely still in the cocoon, and we're going to be in the cocoon for a while. We all want it to be over, but we got a ways to go. When you take a look at all the ways that our world and humanity needs to change to be sustainable, it's a lot of change. So we're going to be in the cocoon probably for a while. But while we're in the cocoon, we find each other, right? The imaginal selves find each other and
Yeah.
get excited, and we bond and we form this new world, this new
Yes.
paradigm. Yeah, so I agree with you. So a reminder, please everybody go to her name, Larisa Stow, Larisa, Stow.com, and then just scroll down and you'll see right here where you can join the tribe. And I've already done this a few times, but I'll do it again.
Sure, everybody how to do that.
Yeah, let's see if I, so there you go. See how easy it is, and then you're in, and that's how you'll know all the different things that are taking place with Larisa Stow. Thank
Scott.
you so much for taking time of your evening. Thank you to your husband and to your daughter for letting me have 90 minutes of mom and beloved time. So I always appreciate that. So blessings to your family members for sharing you with us, our beautiful tribe, for a little while.
And Scott, thank you. Like, thank you for creating this space, for me to share like my passion and what's in my heart, and get to dive in with you and create this awesome space, to share with community and find our people. Like, you're creating a space, you're creating that magnetizing energy to draw all of us together, right? All those who vibrate with this information and with this, this frequency. So thank you for the work that you're doing in the world, being on your path, powerfully.
Thank you.
I'm very, very honored to be here. Thank you for asking me.
Yeah, my pleasure. My pleasure. Let's do it again sometime.
Okay.
Yeah, let's totally
I
do
would
it
love
again.
that. I would
And
love
I
that.
will now see you, of course, on August 7th. And we'll send you a confirmation and do all that we normally do there. But you're in for August 7th. That'll be great. And I just so love who you are and respect you. And it's just wonderful to get to know the deeper, deeper levels of who you are. And
Thank
thanks.
you. Thank you, Scott, for asking,
Yeah.
for being curious.
Yeah. Uh, all right. Well, have a beautiful, beautiful evening. Everybody who's watching, again, thank you. Of course, it's some of you are watching live on Sunday. Many of you are watching the recording. I notice most people who watch the Sunday show watch the recording. So whenever you're watching this, or it's going up on our YouTube channel, so you might be watching it 5 years from now on YouTube. Whenever you're seeing it, know that we appreciate each and every one of you. And may you take the wisdom, the medicine that Larisa has offered, sip it, enjoy it, and may it bring you maximum grace for us all. Maximum grace. Take care.
Take care. Namaste.
There we go. Had a moment there to end it. Well, I love that all of the members in our Zoom room are still with us. Thank you, Annette, Bonnie. Wow, we got a lot of Bonnies going on. Mark, thanks for being with us. And thank you, anybody watching on Facebook. I saw friends like Christy Michaels, Fanny Starchild, Trish Wright, Robin, Jay Mayer. We're all watching on Facebook. Anybody else? And do
definitely check out Larisa Stow's Love Warriors, her Facebook group. Check it out on Mondays. Show up at 11 a.m. She has beautiful meditations during the day. And if you didn't watch last night's Saturday Night Live, it was really powerful. Very, very powerful. You can go back and go to my Facebook page, my profile page, or go to Love Coach Academy videos. We really dropped in with some amazing teachers and speakers about race and racism. And the people with us, the teachers are so wise and able to talk about really hard stuff without being judgmental. And as a privileged white man, I'm still learning about my inherent racism. Not that I'm, being a racist doesn't mean you're part of the KKK or that you hate black people, but just recognizing that there's certain ways of thinking and languaging that we don't even realize have racist overtones. Um, and it was a powerful show, and we had some of the best music we've ever had on Saturday Night Live. Nina Gray rocked it. Um, I love the musicians. Obviously, Larisa Stow is one of my favorites. Kristen Hoffman, who I was working with earlier this morning, she's going to host another show for us on August 14. Nina Gray, Honey of the Heart played last night. Amazing. God, beautiful. All right. I think it is time. Uh, Remember, you can make any day, any moment sacred by seeing the divine in all. Let's all practice that. Let's maybe dedicate that today we're going to really practice seeing divinity in all, even those things that we might initially judge. How can we see God, life, the divine inside of that person? All right. God's blessings, everybody. Thank you for joining.